Fatigue makes cowards of us all, but what if you're feeling fatigued all the time? Does that really make you a coward, or is it something that we can change within our game plan to make you a better overall athlete? Same thing with coaches. If you get a lot of players who are always tired, then you can rest assured that you're probably going to start dealing with a lot of injuries sooner rather than later. What's good, everybody? My name is Justin Miller, owner of Legends of Athletics. In this video, we're going to be discussing chronic fatigue, signs and symptoms, what things you can do to combat that, and what that feels like, and also how that may be affecting you as an athlete. Before we get into the meat of it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating. Help us move up in the rankings, and as always, be legendary. So, whenever I used to play football, of course, we were going through tour days. We had like true fall camp, things like that, which they do still have that today, but these things are now modified. And so we had those things. And so for me, I just remember one of my coaches always telling us that, football is a sport that you play that you're never at 100. You're never at 100%. Never at 100%. Every coach, I think just about every coach has made that speech at some point. And that's true, but you shouldn't come out of camp. You shouldn't go into the season feeling like you're at 80% before y'all even get playing, because you have to think about this. If you're at 80% in week one, it's only going to go down from there, because the longer the season goes, the more the wear and tear gets on your legs, on your body from just the contact, the hitting and things like that. It's all going to weigh on you. And so you can't get stuck on that. And you have to do the things you can do to help yourself be in the best position possible, especially if you're at the high school level and you have aspiration on getting to the collegiate level. And if you're at the collegiate level, have aspiration on getting to the professional level. It's all about how you take care of yourself. It's about the things you do off the field, and then how do those things affect what we do on the field. And so, in this video, I want to take the time to go through that and make sure that we can all gain something from it, and just make us better coaches, make us better athletes, and make us better players. I'm sitting here now, think about when I played high school football, and how when we got up to the varsity level. Of course, I went to at that time it's 5A high school. Now I think they're 7A, but it was a big school. And so once we got to varsity level, I think that was my first time experiencing fatigue before playing the game of football. And when I say fatigue, I didn't know how to address it. I didn't know how to define it at that point. Being in high school, I had limited knowledge, and so I just know I always felt restless. I slept decently well, but it was always like a restlessness, waking up and still feeling tired. Even just muscles, kind of like lactic acid, just building up and sitting there. At that time, I didn't know what lactic acid was, but muscles just feeling like that little burning sensation, always feeling sluggish and things like that. Even when I did feel like I was amped up, I still didn't feel 100% like myself. And so it was just a combination of things, and I didn't know at that time how to combat those things. And I don't think, for who I was working with at that time, didn't give a lot of information on how to overcome those things, or where those things may have stemmed from, as far as like, excuse me, as far as going to the root cause of them. And so with chronic fatigue, a couple things that we look at as signs and symptoms or causes of them are lack of sleep, one, lack of rest, under eating, and too much volume. Whenever we don't rest is the best recovery tool that we have in our bag for anything. Rest is better than foam rolling, ice bathing, hydro tub. Is better than all that. Even the compression sleeves, the compression boots, it's better than all that stuff. Resting is the best medicine. But if you're not resting, your body is not getting that time to shut down and recover and really repair those broken down muscles that you broke down during practice, the game, what have you. And so you have to take time to rest. I try to advise most of my athletes, especially over the summer when they have plenty of time, to make sure you can get 9 to 10 hours of sleep a day. And that may not work for everybody, because some people, depending on if you got a job, depending on what your daily responsibilities are, you may be watching your younger siblings, things like that. You may have a lot of stuff on your plate, but everybody's not a 8 hour straight per night sleeper. I know I'm not one of those people. I'm more like a 7. If I'm really tired, I go to 8. Usually on average per hour night sleeper. And so if you can get 7 hours in, let's say you can ideally get 7 hours in at night, and you can take an hour nap during the day, maybe another 15-minute nap at another point, then that's going to give us that 8 hours and 15 minutes. Let's say if you're at 8, then it's going to bump you up to 9 hours and 15 minutes. Or at some point, if you have time to where you can get an hour and a half, 2 hour nap in, then that'd be great as well. And people may look at that crazy. Some of the parents that's watching this may look at that crazy. And coaches may say that that's lazy, but we have to give the body time to repair itself and restore and be ready to perform at the highest level and at its peak the next day and going into training. And so, rest is the best medicine. And if you're not resting, then, that's gonna just make the situation worse and worse and worse, because one night of bad sleep is all right, but 2 nights, 3 nights, and we're rolling those over, where you're never getting time to fully recover before the next thing. Even if you got 24-hour period, let's say you go 10 days straight of doing it and you get a 24-hour period to get back on track, that's not enough time to get back in rhythm and then get the most benefit or most bang from your buck from that. So we have to make that kind of a routine, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but we kind of got to make that a routine. The next thing is under eating. A lot of athletes, when they come off the field, especially if they play an outdoor sport, coming from the heat, you don't necessarily have a huge appetite for some, and your appetite for eating hot foods may be low. Some people have a urge to eat fresh foods, and if you don't have that urge to eat anything solid, then we can go to something like applesauce. We can go to an electrolyte drink like a Gatorade or a Powerade, or maybe you can try something like a cold pre-made protein drink. And so those things are things that we can do to put ourselves in a better position, while also giving ourselves nutrients, giving ourselves calories, and giving ourselves that urge to wake our gut up so that we can eat a healthy meal maybe an hour or two after we get finished with practice, get finished with the game, things like that. And we're already starting that recovery process that goes back up to number 1, and we're putting ourselves in a better position to be successful. The last thing I will talk about that may be something is too much volume. And so too much volume just goes to, sometimes as coaches, we try to build Rome in one day, and that is not the way, because we can do a lot of volume, heavy volume, but if we're doing heavy volume every single day, we're not giving that athlete's body time to recover. So this is another thing that we have to make sure that we're dosing our volume over the summer, over camp, in order to go into the season feeling fresh. Preferably, I heard this from Tony Hoyer. I heard this from him, and it made the most sense. You would really like to approach the first game and be 80% in shape. For whatever reason, football especially, we've kind of become archaic in thinking that we're going to step into the season and be completely in shape. No matter how good of a trainer you are, no matter how good of a coach you are, the thing that gets you in shape is playing your sport. There's nothing we can replicate, or very few things we can replicate in training that go hand in hand with the game of football, for instance. Because you have to think about it like this. Unless we're able to mimic and create contact at high speeds repetitively over 15 to 30 repetitions, there's nothing in training that we can do to make those things put them go directly in line with football shape. That's why when you see guys miss out on camp and things like that in the NFL, a lot of times, or hold out, a lot of times when those guys come back in the season, you'll see some type of soft tissue injury occur, because there's nothing you can do to mimic what you're going to be demanded to do in the season, what the sport demands in season. So that's what we can do, and with volume you can dose it up and down if you're the coach. Of course, if you're the athlete, you have to do whatever the coach says. But if you're the athlete, that's when it goes back to 1 and 2. We got to make sure our nutrition is there, and we got to make sure that our rest is there. And so to give you 3 solutions, and to wrap this video up, give you 3 solutions to those problems. The first thing I would do is say have recovery methods to make that you can make a habit. A lot of times I can give you all these solutions and things like that, but if it's not something that you can make a habit, then it's pointless. Because if you do something one time or two times, that is not the same quality as doing it 30 times. And so with rest, there's things you can do, like putting your cell phone down. I know if you're a kid it's hard to do, but putting your cell phone down 30 minutes to an hour before you go to bed, maybe wearing blue light blocking glasses before bed to help the brain start to turn itself off. Dimming the lights in your house. So a lot of us have fluorescent bulbs or very bright bulbs within our homes, and so dimming those lights down before bed to let our brains know that it's about time to wind it down. Those are things that even after a ball game, you got to think about adrenaline rushes and things like that. So maybe some sort of tea, and I know I'm a southerner, so not sweet tea, but some sort of tea to help your body kind of go into a relaxation state, and that way that you can kind of rest and things like that after the game. Because like, again, going back to it, that adrenaline spike shoots up so high, it's hard to come down. Trust me, even in coaching, I have to do things that help me calm back down after a game. And so having those things in place, you can make a habit, would be something great. Alternative nutrition, like I said before, and this is not really alternative nutrition, like, alternative. I just say alternative because it's different to eating solid food. So going back to the protein shakes, if pre-made is your thing, you can have one of those on ice, having a cold protein shake, eating fruit before you eat your meal, just so that sugar and sweetness will wake up the gut and put you in a state to want to eat, versus just going and not eating because you don't have that urge. Because sometimes whenever we get done with rigorous activity or intense activity, the thing that will happen is, because we are so locked in and we have different hormones going, to make this very short, it turns off the gut to wanting food right then, and you just have to wake yourself back up or remind yourself that you do need the fuel to eat. And then decreasing volume, that just goes back to decreasing volume, and I got on my notes, if possible. If it's possible to decrease your volume, that's one thing. If not, then we have to learn how to navigate that, meaning go up to 1 and 2 and then deal with that as best as we can. And I think if you can rest as much as possible and then eat a nutritious meal, then we can help with that'll help with the volume that you're being asked to put out. Now, from a coach's perspective, I just say, we have to be smart. You have to know your players and know your team and know your athletes. You can't demand. I think the reason, it's not a think really, but the reason a lot of injuries go down when the season happens is because coaches take their foot off the gas of conditioning athletes to nothingness every day. And so, athletes just get more time to recover. So, you got, and I'm going off high school schedule here. You got Monday, full pads, Tuesday, full pads, Wednesday, shell, Thursday, walkthrough, Friday, game. And so because you got that Thursday and Friday to not have the same volume, then your body naturally falls into place in most cases at most schools and things like that. And so just always keep in mind those things. If you're feeling like, I'm not getting enough rest and recovery, then let somebody know. Don't just, go out there and just go through the mix, get in the mix, go through the motions and think that that's normal. Especially going into game 1, game 2, and game 3 for sure. That's how I like to break seasons up. And, that first quarter of the season, you should be decently fresh. That back half is when we start getting to the, things that we got to do to make sure that we're tip-top shape and ready to perform at a high level. And so outside of that, that's really it. I hope that you guys took something from this video. I hope I was able to help one. Hope I was able to help somebody. And if you like the content, don't forget to like, subscribe. As always, be legendary.